Cut out the jibber jabber. Don't be babbling like a fool. Say what you got to say. That's all. Then shut your dang pie hole.
Well, it is Monday morning, 0:30, blasted out of the bunker and heading down the highway. Oh, we got one hell of a week to go, folks. It is going to get nasty. There's something I wanted to cover last night in the zoo, but you guys kept me so busy with your questions that I didn't have a chance. But it's still relevant information because it's SHTF related, has everything to do with the course of events that we are set on. Let us get right into it. I got two news stories from which to draw this, hypothetical thinking exercise, aka a conspiracy theory. No, it's only a conspiracy theory if it threatens the narrative. I'm not threatening the narrative. All I'm doing is following the narrative. So what is it that's out there that's so interesting? Well, the narrative that they want to push on the one hand that everything is going just the way they want. That's right. Everything is going the way they want in Ukraine. You know, they're winning. They actually blew up some Russian stuff. Folks, it's so bad. The morale on the Ukraine side is so bad that they spoke with, interviewed, talked to an injured Ukraine soldier. He said, look, things are so bad there. They try sending me back out again, I will shoot myself in the leg. In other words, he will re-injure himself. He'd rather do that, shoot himself in the leg, than go back to the front lines where almost certain death is. Now, there was a lot of trouble, folks, in Vietnam. And I don't speak of this lightly or in jest. But, you know, there was if your unit, if you were in the field, if you were in the jungle, if you were in a combat situation in a city in Vietnam, you had a time frame, you had a time limit, you know, depending on your experience, how long you would last or could last. Remember, in 10 years, 67,000 Marines and soldiers died. That's a lot of people, folks. In 10 years, 67,000 people died. So what they had was a how long will you last in combat average time. One of the tricky things about Vietnam, folks, was they didn't know where the enemy was. It is literally a jungle if you're not in urban combat. It's a jungle, so you can't see, they can hide. They didn't have the tools they have today for finding people, which still didn't prove to be useful even in a desert like Afghanistan or Iraq. But let's continue. In the jungle in Vietnam, right, you'd be walking along, all of a sudden you'd meet an ambush. And there were only so many seconds that you would live on average before it was too late and you were just done. 67,000 folks. Let's just say over 12 years, that's 5,000 a year. So, apparently, in Ukraine, they've lost 500,000 in a year and a half. Essentially, folks, they've lost, just to use a nice round number, 10 times the people that we lost in Vietnam. It's 10 times more grim. It is 10 times more deadly. You are assured of death by a factor of 10 times. People dodged the draft. They left the country. They abandoned their citizenship because they would rather do that than die. Right? They would rather suffer a life of being called a coward than to go to potential death. Whereas some people, I don't know, it's just incredible. That Marine I met the other day, that old timer, 77-year-old dude, did 2 tours in Vietnam. My uncle did 2 tours in Vietnam as a Marine. Some people they just did more. Some people won't do any. Some people have integrity. Some people don't. I don't judge this guy in Ukraine, this injured soldier. They did not go back to the front. Because unlike Vietnam folks, in Ukraine, they know where the Russians are. They're not hiding. It's not unknown. It's not a mystery. They're right there waiting for them. I want to talk about the feeling of dread, ominous dread, knowing that if you take one more step or drive your vehicle 100 more yards, you could start taking shelling or get hit any moment with artillery, a missile, or start taking fire from small arms, depending on who you're closest to. It's that grim for the troops, folks. Now, let me tell you what's going on in Kiev. Well, Kiev knows it too. And if Kiev knows it, so does Brussels, so does all of Europe, so does Washington, D.C. So what happened? Well, shitheel Zelensky showed up at the United Nations in New York. Then he went and tried getting an audience with the U.S. Congress and failed. Was not let in. Was told no thank you. And he went from being a spoiled little brat and making demands. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. Your sons and your daughters are going to end up fighting Russians. Blah, 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 blah. Threatening us. That's a threat, folks. On a national level, that's a threat. Not that threats don't happen all the time, but it's a threat nonetheless. He went from being a threatening little brat, baby Voldemort, all 5'2" of him. He went from being a spoiled little brat to a beggar in about 5 seconds. Well, if you don't keep giving us weapons, we're gonna lose. That's right, folks. This is what happens. The little brat and his command under the CIA took control of Ukraine in 2014, almost 10 years ago now. They took control in a coup d'etat, and they have maintained that control of Ukraine and Ukraine only. And then they used their literal Nazi brigade, the Azov Battalion Brigade, forgive me, took control of them, these Nazis, and then went into areas of Ukraine which were more heavily Russian, ethnic Russian populated. Makes sense. It's over closer to Russia. It's eastern Ukraine. And started committing war atrocities and murder and much worse. Well, I don't know if it can be worse than murder, but some damn awful shit. Genocide. And that's when Russia said enough of this shit. The people of this area don't want to be a part of this. According to international law, they have a right to leave, to be protected, to defend themselves. And so Russia did that. They did not go to war. They did a special military operation to liberate the people of eastern Ukraine, allowed them to vote, and they joined the Russian Federation. They did so in a orderly, efficient military manner. And then they were there to defend them. The same way, let's just say if China invaded Mexico and took over Mexico, but let's just say Baja California and the eastern side of the Sea of Cortez, or the Gulf of California, if you will. They said, hey, we want U.S. protection. We want to be protected. They would say, okay, you're a state now. You're a territory. Not a state, but U.S. territory, kind of like Guam or Puerto Rico. Being a state takes a whole lot more. Anyways, they would say, we'll protect you. And then anyone that rolled up on that territory, we'd defend it, right? We'd be like, hey, they don't want to be part of your shit. You took over that country illegally. We're here to protect these people now. That's what Russia did, folks. Very much like that. So Zelensky is losing the war, and he's losing it bad. Trying to fight against the Russians who are like, nope, we planted our feet. You aren't coming any closer. So something is changing very quick, folks. Very quickly, things are changing in Ukraine. Zelensky no longer gets to talk shit. Now he's a beggar. He's begging for money. And instead of billions, well, apparently they somehow convinced McCarthy. That's right, Kevin Do-Nothing McCarthy, Speaker of the House of the Republicans. He's not going to give up billions, but he's going to give up $300 million. $300 million. To me, sounds like I can buy an awful lot of bullets. We're still going to give him $300 million, but he's not going to get billions and billions. He's not going to get $300 million in aid. I think they're closing down this part of the war. Now, does that mean that they're not going to continue in guerrilla fashion for the next 10 years, using black funding, hidden money, to fund a continuous effort to fuck with Russia? Does it mean that the U.S. and NATO is going to give up 100% on eastern Ukraine and just take what they can take out of, well, western Ukraine and screw them over? Is that what this means? I don't know. Does it mean they're going to abandon the ground war over eastern Ukraine and start attacking Russia with NATO equipment and technology and assistance, the way they are attacking Russian naval sites at Sevastopol? We're going to find out. Now, will they, like any good bully, will they turn away? Are they going to turn away from attacking Russia and instead turn their venom on us as punishment? Right? When you see a bully who's gotten his ass kicked, what does he do? Well, he bit off more than he could chew now, didn't he? Pissed someone off who had the ability to fight back. So what do? They need to reestablish their studly macho-ness and go pick on someone who has absolutely no chance. So the bully turns and goes back and picks on the little guy that he's been picking on for years and years and years because he can get away with it and win every time. In other words, will NATO turn on us, the people? Will the United States government turn on us, the people of Europe and the United States of America, and start picking on us again? I know they really never quit. But is that what we have coming? Folks, it's already shit. You think it's going to get better now? Chance favors the prepared mind. Is yours. Godspeed. Semper Fi. I'll see you guys very soon.